Hi there guys, welcome back to the In The Rough podcast. Really glad you can join us this week. Exciting week coming up on the podcast. We've got talks on the new rangefinder, rules and regulations coming into the PJ as of next year. We've got talks on Anita's big return into golf, and we're also kind of covering our results and predictions from last week, and there is a winner there, so make sure you stay tuned and check it out. Let's get it. Right, okay, we'll get into it, and we're starting off with some of the news coming out this week about being able to achieve and gain a handicap now without being a member or an affiliate of a club, which naturally is a big change for the likes of me and Sehab, who don't like to be tied down to one single location. What's your thoughts on it, though,
Tom? I like to pay money for a place, yeah.
But that actually costs you more.
Yeah, I think it's good. Places. It's opening up. Well, not necessarily. Depends how much you play. Doesn't it really? Playing once a month is not as expensive. But yeah, I think it's good. It's kind of with the big uplift in golf, obviously over the pandemic and that sort of stuff. I do feel a lot more people are in your shoes who are our age, who don't want to be tied to one place, want to try out a lot of different courses. And, you know, it gives them a chance to then enter tournaments still and do that side of things. So I think it's good. And it doesn't mean you somewhere for 2 weeks you can't play in your local course or something to get, you know, the 8 scorecards you need now to get your handicap.
Well,
you can
I think
get them away somewhere else and that sort of stuff.
I think a lot of people just want to get a handicap to have a handicap. Like, I think, speaking from my side, I think I just enjoy having a handicap rather than just so you know where you are without it being for a competitive reason. Just it's nice to know what you're tracking at, so you know what you're looking at moving forward. It's just a nice to have.
I think as well, from a lot of things, it is about making it more accessible to a lot of people. And I guess trying to break down the stuffy nature of it all as well. So anything that does that, in my eyes, is a very positive. And I think, in all honesty, to get people into it, you should explore different courses because, you know, it naturally, it's the fun of it. You know, you go out with your mates, more like a day out. You know, go out and you know, have a proper round somewhere. It's new, it's challenging, rather than, you know, you're playing the same flat course every week, week in and out. So it can only be a win in my eyes.
Would the negative not potentially be from a club perspective at the loss of potential memberships, though? Because a lot of people would join on the basis of being a local club and needing to achieve a handicap, whereas that doesn't need to be the case now. And I think clubs have been absolutely ravaged over the last year. They're going to be desperate for memberships. Could this change that?
But on the flip side, if you're getting more people coming in as more casual members, playing once every month and then play somewhere else 2 other weeks of the month, you're probably more likely to get people in because people are more. I don't think people are as likely to want to be members anymore, be tied to it, like you said, potentially, and the big one-off costs and that sort of stuff. So, and you still get people footfall, and if they enjoy it there, then they're even more likely to still become members and that sort of stuff. So,
and the green fees are charged for one-offs as well is, you know, high enough they'll turn it around. But also, I think, I guess I've not tried it yet, but I've seen a lot of advertisement for stuff like Play More Golf, especially on Sky Sports and quite a few other similar apps where they give you like a home club that you can go and play at, you know, pretty much any time, but then give you like a free visit to other clubs as well. So I think stuff like that is going to become a lot more of the norm in terms of the flexibility it gives people, and especially to the new people coming into golf, especially through COVID. Yeah. So I think that stuff like that is going to only be good.
It just takes the pressure off as well, I think, of having to spend that much money to feel like you actually know where you're at and that sort of stuff. Be interesting how they work it, though, how you're going to get each scorecard, because you could theoretically just go out with your mates and just go, we'll write this down. But so I don't know if it has to be that you have to play with a member of the club if you're at that and want it to count, or but then there's the flip side that quite a lot of people don't like to have a low handicap even if they're better than they like to be better than their handicap. So if they do play a tournament, they look rather good. So
but even if you're playing with your mates, you want to have a higher handicap because then you'll get shots. So I guess how you regulate it is going to be the issue. But I think I don't see anyone.
Well, it doesn't really matter if you're playing with your mates at the end of the day. But if you're playing with your mates at the end of the day, say you're like a 20 handicap and someone's playing off scratch, and then due to your handicap, you beat that person playing by scratch by a few shots, you're still that much worse than the person playing off scratch. You still know who's better. I don't really think it makes a difference it's only in like an actual tournament setting that would be annoying for someone. If you're a 10 handicapper and you're playing someone who says they're a 14, but they're actually like a 10 and they're a similar standard to you, and then they beat you by 4 shots or something like that, then that would be contentious. But with your mates, I don't really think anyone's going to care. You know who the better golfers are.
Well, I think the benefit potentially then could be more courses joining, like yourself with Chiltern Forest. Obviously, your membership there counts for X number of other courses throughout the country as well. I think you could definitely see an increase on that, courses teaming up to better value their own membership offerings, which I think could benefit everybody as well, and still make sure there is that desire to get memberships potentially.
Yeah, I think just bringing it to the 21st century and allowing that accessibility to just be able to, progress, know where your game is, develop things whilst not just playing one course and getting that repetitive stuff into it.
Do you think this will lead to more chains though? For example, we see chain gyms all over, up and down the country, or where they say, if you're part of one, you can go to different locations. Do you think we'll start to see chains of golf course management companies forming up and down the country?
That's very hard with golf courses. Because a lot of them are on specific like forest areas, grassland areas that are protected and that sort of stuff, and the planning permission and that sort of stuff that goes into them.
No, as in the existing courses being brought out by companies that want to invest in that and offer that out as a 21st century solution almost.
Might not necessarily be a bad thing.
No, I don't think it will change. Yeah. Damn, if that hasn't happened already, I don't think that's going to, just because you can get a handicap anywhere, is going to change that, basically. I don't think so.
All right, well, we'll move swiftly on to...
There you go. There's your future investment idea.
There you go. Yeah, well, we'll move swiftly on to... Yeah, last week, obviously, a lot happened at the Waste Management, which we'll get on to discuss further through. But one of the big things prior to that was Rory's rant, following on from our conversation of our topic last week in regards to equipment and regulation changes. And I think a lot of people, he probably agreed massively with what he said and had a little bit of the dig at the authorities. What were your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I had to agree. I know I was playing devil's advocate in the last one, but the way he put it and the way he said it, I think he was completely on point with it all. And I think the biggest thing actually that carried over is, at the end of the day, and I think something we didn't talk about, is even if you reduce how far everyone can hit it by 50 yards, the long hitters are still going to be long hitters. You're still taking 50 yards away from everyone. So at the end of the day, it's not actually going to change who's hitting it the furthest or anything like that as well. And yeah, it's getting that exclusivity point, accessibility point again, in terms of, you're wasting money on this sort of rubbish. People are kind of aspiring to be like these people on the tour, so you probably want to spend that money getting those people to be able to do that. Yeah. So I was wrong.
I'm glad you're holding your hands up, because otherwise I would have rubbed it in. But no, I felt that Rory expressed the points of me that I was raising and Seb was raising in a much better way as well, particularly around the stuff around the accessibility point. What annoyed me quite a bit was seeing the coverage around it as well on Sky Sports in America, on CBS. They were saying, he's going to have a bit of a moan because he doesn't want yardage taken off him, and kind of almost disregarding every other point that he made as well. So I guess that kind of worries me, that they're not going to see his rant and his statement as the push for the future that it should be. They're just going to see it as a player complaining about losing 20 yards off his drive, rather than the fact of, we need to be investing in making the game more accessible, more inclusive, and the coverage from the people who are entrenched most in the sport kind of gave me like warning signs of that as well.
A couple of points. Firstly, one, I've never seen him that angry, because he actually seemed angry. I've never seen him like that. And secondly, if they do push it through, big picture, do you think there would be a creation of another tour that wouldn't put limits on things?
Potentially. I mean,
players would then leave and or threat of that to then get the tour.
At some point, every other sport has kind of gone through different tournaments being created. The NFL had challenges. Has had challenges in the past as well. NBA, before the mergers, has had challenges. There's always threat of, rival leagues forming. The Premier League essentially did it when it peeled off from the Football League. So I think that's something they will have in mind, because they don't, you can't push the players too far in that regard.
I think with increased player power, you're seeing it in every other sport. You're seeing players in the NFL now trying forcing things through. NBA, that's been that way for the last decade or so. So there's, player power things become more and more important. They've got more of a voice in social media and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, that wouldn't happen now, but I'm just saying if they were pushing it, would the players threaten it or that sort of stuff?
I'd hope so. I'd hope some of the players would take that stance, but I don't think golf players have as much power, because the PGA Tour isn't held up by any single player. For example, any team that LeBron is on is held up by LeBron. Any team that Messi is on is held up by Messi and his commercial rights. So unless you're talking about Tiger in his heyday, the PGA Tour isn't being held up in terms of commercial rights from any single player.
People don't go and watch a golf tournament for the golf. You can go and watch that anyway if you felt like it. They watch it for the players, and if all the players are standing up and saying, it has to take several players. It can't. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's not just going to be just Rory. It would have to be like, I don't know, like the top 20 players in the world all saying.
It'd end up being like Pebble Beach this week, where there's no top 10 players. That'll be every.
Hold your horses.
Yeah. Well, I think the other problem people were saying as well is, was it the right platform for Rory to say that? Is he instead actually going to antagonise the authorities by...
But what other platform is there?
Yeah, how else is he
trying to make a point?
No, but that's what they're saying. That's the problem, that the authorities are making a lot of these decisions without going through any of the players, any of the groups, any of the businesses. They're doing it alone without kind of asking them. So it's you're causing those issues, and you're going to have that.
Yeah, but they're doing it alone. And now think how much coverage this has had from that perspective of the rant. Everyone's talking about it. It was all over Sky News. That's all they talked about. They weren't even talking about the tournament in the lead up to the tournament. They were talking about Rory, talking about this. So as soon as he's done that, he's the biggest player in the game pretty much. He said it. Everyone's seen it. They can't really hide behind doing it alone now. I think they have to sort of tie it into the players. Otherwise, it's just going to happen again, and it's just going to be more players saying it, and it's just going to...
I think it's just the fact they're just sour about the fact that they've got a lot of backlash from it, because there's no where else is Rory meant to have that run? If he goes on social media, they'll say, "Oh, we shouldn't be on social media." There's no way for him to let that out, and I think a lot of players and a lot of people in the game will agree with what he said as well. I think there's only a very, very minority, in all honesty, that disagree even after having heard him, because I know Tom played devil's advocate last week, but actually having heard it laid out much more concisely and better by someone who's involved right at the top level. And Rory's point, you're targeting 0.01% of all players that actually play golf, so it's changing the entire game to fit around that is a bit silly.
Yeah, no, I think that's the exact point. It's are you going to change every course to suit? It's like in the UK, you think how many courses there are in the UK, thousands, how many of those thousands are actually played by elite level pros? It's minimal. It seems beyond crazy. But that point leads probably very well into our next point, which is about the PGA announcement of distance devices going to be allowed in the championships moving forward in both the men and women games, which seems a bit counterintuitive to go, we're going to make you hit less further, but we're going to allow you to measure the distance because it's not going to be as far. That is just bizarre.
This is one thing. Again, I really dislike this. Mm-hmm. I think it takes away at the top level. It takes away a lot of the skill, because yes, when we're playing around, I might need a yard, the device to tell me, okay, I'm 150 yards out. Which iron do I need to be thinking of doing it with? These guys are pros out there every single day. They've got yardage books. They've got, green books. They, their caddies know every inch of the green down to the blade of grass to know exactly which way the cut is going to go. These guys don't necessarily need that help in terms of...
It's not a help thing. It's a speed of play thing.
But is it really going to speed play up that much more?
No, that's the point. That's what they're laying it on. that you can walk up. You're not having to have a discussion about how far it is. You're not having to look at your book for 2 minutes to actually figure it out. You can just zap it in with your rangefinder. That's what they're saying. But granted, there's been backlash from players because, that is part of the skill of the game, is being able to read it and judge it. I don't think it affects the players as much. It just gets rid of the point of having a caddy. That person's just carrying your bags now.
Well, no, the sole reason they have done it is for endorsements and sponsorships. It opens up a whole new avenue for brands that solely make that equipment that never have access to the reason they've done it. There's no other reason, no other justification.
I don't think it completely invalidates the caddy, because I think a good caddy offers a lot more than just saying, okay, we're 120 yards away here. You either want to go with a, your 54 degree and you want to go at 75%. They offer a bit more than that. They offer them coaching through it as well. So, for example, the difference you saw if you look back on the tour events this week, Dustin, when he was trying to read the green, he was having an absolute horrible time in Saudi, and his brother wasn't actually helping him all that much. But a good caddy can step in and say, "Okay, I think it's going to break this way. Do you see that as well?" Or you can do so much more. I think so. It doesn't invalidate the caddy. It does.
I say it invalidates, but it takes away from the offer. Or usually on the greens, players do it themselves for the most part, apart from the odd player, and.
The problem,
a player like DJ, for example, he's pretty quick anyway, so he just goes up and hits the shot. But
it just opens up issues, though, doesn't it? Because what's to stop them now allowing the laser guide, the laser equipment to attach on your putter, which measures line and length? What's to stop that? You're opening a can of worms.
I mean, that's completely different than seeing how far, because like you say, says how far.
It's a tool to read the green layout, which your caddy does. So what's the difference? That's going to be the argument of a lot of people. You're taking away something the caddy can do.
I think that might be a step too far, but I think it definitely does take away the skill element of a player being able to judge it, and being able to almost that guessing the distance from their own yardages. Decide club decisions as to which iron you're going to go with, what club you're going to go with, how you need to swing it. All those little swing impact decisions that come from not having an exact measure of. This is 198 yards or whatever the yardage is. All those little tweaks and little things that go in between.
Are they going to allow them a wind indicator now as well?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I think that as well.
Going back to your argument of always pushing the technology thing, you want to see these players perform the best. Surely you'd want to, from Devil's Advocate, give them the yardage and see how good they are at actually hitting that yardage.
I'd be keen to say, yeah, I think you're right. It goes against my point now, but I'd want to see that in like a charity tournament. For example, if they was the tournament where they're at Paynes Valley, yeah, great, bring it on. That sort of thing. It can be a nice little gimmick.
They do use them. They're allowed to use them in like their warm-up rounds and that sort of stuff.
Exactly. The thing is, you're allowed to use them in the warm-up round. And that's fine because you get an idea of how far you're hitting it. But actually, Seb's point as well. A lot of these distance measuring devices, they do have slope in there as well. They'll tell you about the wind in there.
You can't have those on.
Is that part of the thing?
But that's the thing. That's why.
In any competition, you can't have the slope indicators on.
No, but how?
Yeah, but they might start introducing that next year, like they've done with this one. That's one.
How do you know that a single caddy just
can see the switch?
But that's what I mean. It just
you can see where the switch is.
It just opens that up for problems, though.
And you'll be able to tell because I still have to say, it's 127 yards, but the TV cameras, they know exactly how far it is. So and that's just like they'll be able to say how far it is distance wise, and if they go, it's 136 and that's 130 and it's uphill, you're going to know there.
You can have a simple indicator like that to just say it's an upslope, or you can have a simple indicator like that to say it's a downslope. It doesn't. But whatever, I think that goes away. But the point is,
but then you go back to the integrity side of things. Players aren't going to do that.
They might. The thing is, they've not brought it this year. They've not brought it this year. Yeah. So it doesn't come in next year or the year after. So I just think, and to go back on your point in terms
it's always been the case with rangefinders. Any tournament,
And to go back on the point of, is it counterintuitive and want to see the players perform at the best? Surely players performing at the best includes them making the judgment of what their conditions are like and how far away they are, rather than that being given to them on a platter.
Yeah, but that doesn't take away from that.
Does it not?
At the end of the day,
because
you're not going to know that. You're not because you're not going to know the wind. You're not going to know the slope. You're only going to know the straight line distance.
No, because if you know you're 180 yards,
you still need to judge.
No, because if you know you're 180 yards compared to 165 exactly, you're going to play that shot completely differently.
Yeah, but they're never going to be that far off. That's the point. It's a speed. That's why it's a speed of play thing, because you're going to know your caddy's going to know you're like 179. It might be 180. You're not going to play the shot that much differently.
So why do they need it then?
And a speed of play thing. That's the point. So they can go up, they can just zap it. You're not having those 2-minute conversations and getting on with it.
No, but your caddy's already got the details. I think it's the opposite. Your caddy already knows the numbers.
Yeah, but they've got to like pace it out physically. They've got to like
they don't do that.
Points to the side of the course.
No, but they don't. No, but they don't do that during the course round.
Yes,
they'll go out.
But
they'll go out in the mornings. They'll pace a course, and also the players will walk the course as well when they're warming up, when they're doing the practice rounds.
They don't show it in the TV coverage. They pace it out. They'll walk. They'll get to like somewhere. Say you've hit it. You're 187 yards away. There'll be a thing on the ground saying 200 yards, and then they'll walk from there, and like physically like go back and walk and check and do that sort of stuff. So I don't say why they've done it. It's not going to take anything away from them or give them any particular advantage massively. I would argue all the players won't use it.
No, they'll 100% use it. If it's available, they will use it.
Yeah, 100%. If it's available,
yeah.
I just don't think it changes anything, to be honest.
But it's not like there's not a massive issue with speed of play that justified the implementation of this.
Yeah, there's been people complaining about speed of play for the last 2 years.
Yeah,
but there's only one or two players.
It's not justified implementing a whole new equipment range. It's just not. It's purely for money and endorsement and nothing else.
Well, even if it is for money endorsement, that's fine then. The players are going to get paid even more, and then the players are going to want to be able to how close they are, because then there's more money on the line. So at the end of the day, if there is more money on the line, fine. The players are going to want it anyway because they're going to want to play.
That money isn't going to the players. That money is going to the PGA.
Yes, but that get put in the pot for the tournament wins.
Well, no, it's not the point of money. It's the fact that they're justifying it with speed of play, which that's got nothing to do with it. It's purely for money. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but when has anyone ever justified it by going, we're just giving this just for more money?
Why not?
No,
just say, look, we're doing
it for commercial reasons.
Yeah, just say, look, we want to increase opportunities for players. By doing that, we're going to implement a new equipment range, which will allow further indoors. What's wrong with saying that?
Yeah, I know, but no sporting body has ever.
Yeah, but what's wrong with saying that? That's the point. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah, but that's a whole different debate. But
but fans are then going to sit there and go, fine, fair enough. Whereas they come out with these BS excuses that actually piss people off. Whereas if they came out and said,
I don't think this is pissed anyway. It just pissed you two off. I don't think anyone cares.
That's a majority of players. That's a majority of people from where I'm sat.
Yeah. So it's bizarre. But anyway, we'll move on swiftly to Sorenstam. So Annika Sorenstam obviously returning after a long sabbatical. What is it? 13 years?
13 years.
Yeah, 13 years. Obviously, 90 international tournament victories prior to her retirement, and she's coming back. Has she spent all her money on gambling and dogs? Who knows? Why is she coming back?
This is the equivalent of Tiger Woods having 10 years off and coming back in the women's game. So...
she's still in the show, isn't she?
So do you think it's because 13 years ago the money in the women's game was pretty poor, whereas now the women's game has skyrocketed in terms of elevation? She could actually come back and actually she could probably play for 2 years and make the same amount she made in her 90 victories, in all seriousness. Is that why?
Potentially,
yeah.
But you can't blame her for.
I guess if you're still good enough to play, why not?
Yeah.
Because it'll all come down to skill. If she's not making cuts, for the next year, it'll be quite obvious. But if she comes back and then starts, dominating again, does that call into question as to how much progress the game has made?
Well, no, because if you're that good, it's one of those. It's not like she's stopped playing golf and not played golf for 13 years. It's just she's probably in lockdown and quarantined and all that sort of stuff for the last year. It's probably like I'm going to do anything for the last 9 months. I'll just say I'm unretiring so I can get out of the house, and that she just
she's gone bored and wants to fly out to Dubai as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's big for the ladies' game as well. The actual there's not, unfortunately as it is, it gets overshadowed by the men's game. So I think it's good that it's a good piece of news that people are actually going to probably tune in, watch that alongside all the men's stuff as well. So obviously, talking about accessibility and all that sort of stuff and growing the game, that's a big area that needs it as well.
Well, they need characters, don't they? I think that's the big thing. You think when Tiger burst onto the scene, it was Tiger that elevated golf, not just golf. The women's sport need a Tiger sort of character, or a Michael Jordan within basketball. They need that sort of character that's going to elevate it.
To be honest, I think female, women's golf is in a lot better standing as a sport than a lot of other women's sports is, in terms of respect, in terms of how respected it is, in terms of how competitive it is as well. It's in a lot better standing. So I think that naturally they're in a good position for it to skyrocket.
Well, it's one of those things. If you're good at golf as a girl, you can compete with the guy as well. Just naturally, you say distance way, but you move slightly closer. So that side of things, if you're good at, you're going to beat the guys.
And I think as well, naturally, if you play the golf for any length of time, you realise whether you're a girl or a guy, it's just as hard to hit the ball and just as hard to hit a goddamn straight toward and close to the hole. So whereas in a lot of other sports you get the argument of physicality and so on. Yes, the distances are slightly different, but the game is just as tough.
It's all comparable. You got the girls who hit it far compared to like Rory and DeChambeau hitting it 30 yards further than everyone in the men's game. You got like Falsey and those girls like hitting it 20, 30 yards further than all the other women. So it's still comparable from that side of things.
Well, I think as well, it's to do with the grassroots side of golf. There is significantly more, well, there's not more, but the percentage of women to men is more equal than probably any other sport at a grassroots level. You could walk to 20 football pitches and not see a single woman. You go to 20 golf clubs, you will see big groups of women playing.
I think it's one of those things that you can still do it when you're older as well. So people who do retire, it's the sport you can still sort of play. So I think that's probably where it comes in. So it's just getting the younger people in. That's the.
I think it's so important to have icons in each segment of the sport. For example, I take my little sister to the range with me on occasion, and she knows about some of the from the guys, so doesn't necessarily know about on the women's side. So there needs to be an icon where young girls can feel inspired by her and want to aspire to be that. And I think that's so important. So there's a few good people out on Instagram who are really promoting women's golf. And that's really good to see as well. So I think it can only be a good thing for the sport.
Right, on to predictions from last week. We will start with Dover in Saudi. It's actually my prediction. DJ, winner.
Congratulations.
Welcome to the winners club.
It was the obvious pick, so I can't take too much credit. It was the obvious pick. So,
but Patrick Reed's always really good in the Middle East, doesn't he, Siab? So,
I mean, in a way, I'm very happy that he didn't win.
I will rewind and show you the clip where I said he cannot play when it's sand because he can't change the lie of the ball. That's exactly what happened. And where did Reed finish, Siab? You tell me.
Doesn't matter. He didn't finish in the top 20, so it doesn't count.
I'll tell you what he didn't do, Siab, though. He didn't withdraw, did he? So, there you go.
No minus points for me.
That's because he didn't have an injury.
He could have claimed one from all that walking around he did.
Yeah.
And he finished 66th.
Yeah, Tom with Tyrrell, a respectable 6th place, and especially after his first round, which was shambolic. Yeah, he recovered the weekend very well. So it was a very respectable effort. But what did you guys make of the tournament as a whole?
The funniest thing was Finau coming second again.
Mr. Consistent.
He said a win is coming, which he's been saying for the last how many thousand of days.
I watched the final day, and it amazed me the fact that no one had the ball to take on Dustin properly. Because he missed so many putts. I don't know if anyone else actually watched the final day properly, but I watched it from his first hole to the end. And, I think at one point, it was like on the 13th hole, the longest putt he'd made was 5 foot. And, and then only after that, he made one putt that was about 10 feet. And outside of that, he missed so many easy chances of birdie. The only thing I can say is tee to green. It's hard to find a player that's better than him in the world right now. But that putting side,
number one, Seb.
But that putting side is but it's so scary to find. Think of if he sorts his putting out, what he can do in terms of absolutely just dominating the game. Because tee to green, he was immaculate. Even though he had one scuff shot, he was able to turn that around and then go straight back at it. So mentally, he is so amazing outside of it. But the fact of as soon as he gets on the green, there were so many issues, and no one had took advantage of that. No one really put together anything to challenge him, and they kept slipping up, which was shocking, really.
Well, yeah, but that's a name thing, It's who's in front of you. It's like when Tiger people. Yeah. But I think you say the thing about if he sorts his putting out, that's the same with any of the top players. There's usually one bit in their game that if it got it firing on all cylinders to fit him in the other areas of the game, then they could dominate the sport for the next, couple of years.
Right, we'll move on to the waste management. Another big tournament last week. Normally one of the better ones, obviously without crowd this time though. And funnily enough, all our predictions all finished joint 13th. So
well done, guys.
Fair play, guys. I mean, yeah, fair play. They all. So who had Rory?
Me.
It was just consistently average.
He was very good in his last round, and Saturday he was very good apart from his putting. Yeah. He should have been about 7 under through the first 9 holes, but he couldn't make a putt to save his life. And then the first 2 days he was meh.
Yeah. Sehab had
Rahm, big boy.
Rahm, yeah, who played well. I had JT, who was playing very well, but obviously a sad bereavement in his family, which probably affected his last round. So that was a tough one for him. But I think given the circumstances, fair play to him. But I think probably the other big point again was obviously Xander finishing second. Was it the 8th time now?
8th time. He's
almost as good as Tony.
Not quite Tony, but no, I think he still has a bit more time. It's not been 1,000 days like it has been for Tony, and the fact he's finishing second, not just in the top 10. It'll come.
You compare him to Brooks, who hasn't won in however long, and then Brooks has the chance to win, and he chips in for eagle.
But you're talking about a 4-time major winner.
But that's what Xander's trying to be. So surely he should have taken 8 chances to win.
No, but at the same time, there's Spieth is up there as well, and he's a major winner. It was really good to see his reemergence after the troubles he had last year and the year before. But
3 years, and the year before that.
But he really looked like he hit rock bottom last year, and so it was really, really positive to see his comeback. I'm not worried about Xander yet. I think he's got bags of potential, and he will deliver. Just Brooks is special.
Yeah, I think you'd much rather if he was Xander finish it like consecutive top 5 second finishes than missing the cut 3 times in a row and then winning. So he's going to do well because he's so consistent.
But people are underappreciating him because he's not winning, and people like Victor Hovland, the young guns, Matt Wolff, Morikawa are winning and converting those chances. Yeah. So that's the thing.
I think that will come. Yeah, Hovland hasn't. How many has he won? He's won 2.
2 or 3 now.
Yeah, I still think that quartet is it of guys is really, really promising.
Well, Xander's older than all of them. He's like 27.
Yeah, and the rest are like what 21 to 23, aren't they?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But they're still in golf. They're still the young guns. So I still think he has lots of time to deliver, and he's made a bag of money in that time as well. So
I'm reserving judgment on Spieth because it's one time, and he bottled it on Sunday. So we'll see what happens. I just found it quite funny. Brooks did that after you said changing coach wouldn't do anything, and he goes and wins the next week. So yeah. But I think it's good. Rory enjoyed it. He'll be back next year because he's never played there before, which brings the crowds. He wants to be back. So that's added bonus as well. But I think it's all about, Brooks being back after being at the low moments. And is he now going to push for more majors? And that side of stuff as well. But again, it's one tournament after he's just missed about 3 successive cuts or something. So
it's also really good to see some semblance of a crowd there as well. Obviously, loudest hole in golf wasn't quite what it normally is, but it's scary now to almost see people coming back in because I think there will be such an appetite for it. It should be really special.
No, definitely. And scores on the doors up to this point, and after a victory for myself and some average finishes elsewhere, is me and C have a joint top with 15 points so far on the prediction, and Tom's got a solid 9 in. Oh, we'll call him second place. Go on then.
That's not that bad considering I haven't had a win yet, and you two both have. So I'm just waiting.
All right, Xander.
Just waiting. Yeah, fair play. Yeah, fair play.
Right, we'll move on to the upcoming tournaments. Only one main one this week, obviously over at Pebble Beach, the Pro-Am up that way. And obviously the big news is after DJ's pulled out, there is nobody in the top 10 competing.
Which I'm surprised at. I would have thought someone would have been like, well, this is my chance to get my win this year, get into the Tournament of Champions, and I can relax for the FedEx Cup. But no, apparently not. No one likes it over there.
Yeah, it's a challenging course. It's not an easy course to be playing. To be fair.
Yeah.
One of the most scenic holes in golf as well.
Yeah, it's a great course. Yeah, seen many famous moments. Yeah, so
no, you can't blame them. Right, predictions wise, obviously, I guess there's probably going to be a bit more skill involved in your prediction now / luck because you can't just go for the obvious. Who's up first this week? I think it's Tom.
I think it's me. Yeah. I've thought about this. I was torn between Paul Casey because he's playing very well, and Siwoo Kim, who's also playing well. There's obviously Patrick Cantley as well, and Spieth's there, but I don't trust Spieth to do it back to back. He'll probably prove me wrong. He'll probably go on and win and make me look stupid, but I think I'll go for Siwoo Kim. He's had a win this year, played pretty well at Waste Management, and should carry that through. I think momentum's a big thing in playing well, so I shall lock in with Siwoo Kim.
Going to see Hab.
So I should go for Paul Casey here. That's the obvious pick in my mind. I really like him. I've said it previously. I really like him. Can I go double? Can I get double points? We've said a wild card. If a wild card wins, we get double points.
What, in a tournament of wild cards?
Yeah. Because
it is a wild card.
I'm going to go Jim Furyk.
Okay, that is incredibly bold.
I think me and Tom will now agree. If Jim Furyk wins, you can have double points. Are you happy to agree to that, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Double points.
I don't think his heart might not make it around all 4 rounds. So
he's got less time left than Joe Biden at this rate. So, I too was leaning towards Casey. Also like the look of Cantley, but I think now because he should be the favourite going in as top ranked personnel, I think he will bottle it. I'm going to go for Francesco Molinari.
Good pick.
So there you go. Some exciting picks. Obviously nothing on the European tour this week. So obviously that draws us to a close. But no, thanks for listening, guys. Yeah, look forward to seeing you next week.